what's going on, guys? I'm back with another video today, and this is going to be the first video in a new series I do where I sort of look at all 30 NBA teams and I sort of look at what their futures could potentially look like for the next 3 or 4 years maybe. I'm not going to go too far into the future just because you never know what can happen, but for example, we're doing the 76ers for this first video, and as you can probably tell from the title, I think that in the next 3 or 4 years I don't see the Sixers really winning a championship. And I'll sort of get more into that in this video, but I just wanted to sort of introduce this idea to you guys, and if you want to see it, then I can do a video for all 30 NBA teams. If not, then I won't do it. It's entirely up to you guys what you want to see. But yeah, let's just get right into this video. And so reasons I think the Sixers won't win a championship. This team came into this season, after their big off season, they had a lot of high expectations. They brought in Tobias Harris in a max contract. They brought in Al Horford, who last season was thought to be the only player that could stop Joel Embiid. So the reason I think they won't win a championship is, again, just based on this season alone, they were the 6th seed, which was a pretty big disappointment considering their expectations coming into this season. We saw they were really good at home. I think they only lost like 2 home games, but the problem is when you're a lower seed, like you're the 6th seed, when you go into the playoffs, if you only win your home games, you get bounced in the first round. So for a team like this, especially looking at their salary cap situation, Tobias Harris in his last year in his contract, which will be the 23-24 season, he's making $41 million and he's going to be 32 years old. His entire contract is a guaranteed $180 million. Al Horford, his last year is the 22-23 season. He's making $26.5 million. His total is $97 million guaranteed, and he's going to be 37 at the end of that contract. You don't want to be paying a 37-year-old that much money because it's just he's obviously going to decline as he gets older. The only player we've seen not do that is LeBron, and he's 35 still playing well, but that is, a big exception. We've been saying this next season is going to be the season LeBron declines for the past 2 or 3 years now. Embiid in his last season, which will be the 22-23 season, he'll be making $33.5 million, and he'll be 29 at this point. So I think the Sixers will obviously try to bring him back because he is arguably the best center in the entire league. The only problem with Joel Embiid is he just lives such an unhealthy lifestyle. He has injury issues. We saw last season in the playoffs, he just couldn't stay healthy. He wasn't getting sleep. He was eating unhealthy. He got sick. He could not perform in the playoffs when it mattered most. And this season too, he had slumps. He had a game where he dropped 0 points, and when you're the best player on a team that's trying to win a championship, you absolutely cannot do that. 0 points is atrocious, and I think that opened a lot of people's eyes to how unhealthy Joel Embiid has been. I think obviously he can get back on track. He's just got to get a good diet going, good rest, and stay healthy. Ben Simmons, he was on a very team-friendly deal this season because of his rookie contract, but his extension kicks in, and in the 24-25 season, while he'll be 29 years old, he's making $38.5 million. He's got $177 guaranteed right now over his entire contract. And obviously, again, the Sixers will probably try to bring him back because he can be a superstar type player. But when you look at this team, just those 4 players alone is all of their salary money, and they're locked up for the next 2 or 3 or 4 seasons actually. And so far from what we've seen, this team does not gel well together. Simmons and Embiid, just when they're on the court together, they don't fit. When they're on the court separately, they are both top players in the league, but when they're on the court together, their play styles collide a lot. Ben Simmons' inability to shoot the ball is really hurting this team's offense. And the problem with that is, because of all the money this team has wrapped up, it'll be very hard to trade any of their contracts, especially the undesirable ones like Al Horford or Tobias Harris. And Brett Brown, while he is an all-right coach, I don't think anyone believes he's the coach that can lead the Sixers to the championship. When you look at all their championships in the past decade, not just the Sixers, but in the NBA, all the championships in the NBA over the past decade, it has been, Coach Pops, Steve Kerr, Eric Spoelstra, these coaches, and Phil Jackson, these coaches that have are considered, top of the top. Even Nick Nurse last year, he came in as a rookie coach, and right now he's arguably one of the best coaches in the entire league. He's a candidate for coach of the year. So when you look at a championship team, obviously the players are important, and I personally don't think these players on this team fit well together, but you also have to look at the coaching ability, and I just think that's not there with the Sixers. And one more thing I want to point out, Jimmy Butler said this on the JJ Redick podcast. He said like some of the reasons why he left Philadelphia, right? And one of his reasons was there's just no structure in that organization. You know, there's no leader, there's no defined organization, and you can't have that on a team when you're trying to make a championship run right now. You know, you have to have structure, you have to have balance, you have to have authority. All these things are very important in a team. And again, all the players on this team are really good, and for all we know, this season could have just been a fluke. They're getting adjusted to each other's play styles. But when you look at it, Al Horford's getting a year older, everyone else on this team is getting more expensive. They really don't have much time to waste. And again, we've seen zone defenses can kill this team. So when it comes to playoff time, when the game slows down and there's set matchups and game plans for each individual player, this team has trouble adjusting to that. And in the playoffs, you really have to be able to adjust. That was sort of the downfall of the Bucks last season against the Raptors, is Giannis just could not adjust to the Raptors' defensive scheme, and that's what sort of boosted the Raptors over them. Because if you remember, in the first two games of that series, the Bucks dominated. They were the superior team. Everyone thought it might go to 5 games, so that it would be an easy win for the Bucks. And then Nick Nurse and the Raptors org adjusted their coaching or their defensive schemes, and they were able to stop Giannis, and Mike Budenholzer just wasn't able to adjust properly. And that was the downfall of that team. So when you look at everything that I've just mentioned here, you know, their money situation, the fact that zone defense completely kills this team's offense, and the money they have, you know, they don't have the pieces, I believe, to win a championship. They have some good pieces off the bench. You know, they have Mike Scott for 2 years, Zaire Smith, Matisse Thybulle, and Shake Milton, who are all pretty young players, and they have a few more years on their contracts. But you're gonna have to pay those guys eventually, and they don't have the money to, you know, keep all those guys, and 2, even if they do, they'd probably want to go towards other players that fit their team better. Again, you know, losing Jimmy Butler in the offseason really hurt them. Losing JJ Redick sort of killed their team. This season really shows how important JJ Redick was to that offense, because he's an efficient shooter, right? That's what the Sixers need. They need shooters that can be consistent, that can provide, you know, 9-10 points off the bench, or even start if they need to, you know, because right now the starting lineup has no spacing. Josh Richardson, while he has been good, he hasn't been exactly what this team is hoping for. And again, I think some of that has to do with, you know, bringing in all these pieces and adjusting to having a completely different rotation. So I think he will get better, but again, they don't have much time to waste. And one more thing I want to mention, though, the Sixers are pretty good at finding gems in the buyout market that can really help them in the playoffs, but that can only do so much for your team. When you have this star-studded roster, those are the guys that you need to perform. And that's like the biggest reason, I think, for the Sixers not winning a championship. Obviously, everything I've mentioned before, but they don't have a closer. Jimmy Butler was that last season. Right now, you know, their best option is probably Tobias Harris taking the last shot, which is less than ideal for a team, you know, in a finals situation. So that's why I don't even think they'll make the finals in the next 2 or 3 seasons. I think obviously this is a good enough team to make the playoffs. They'll be a good team, but I don't think people are really going to look at the Sixers team and think, you know, this is a team that can seriously compete for a championship, just because of, again, how disappointing this season has been and just how disappointing the overall fit has been for this team. And that's all I got for this video. You know, like the video if you want to see me do more of these videos. Subscribe for more content. I try to post every few days. I don't have a set schedule just yet, but usually every 2 or 3 days I try to put a new video out. Comment below any other suggested videos you want me to do, and thanks for watching.